What if you had a chance to talk to one of your absolute leadership legends and had the opportunity to ask them questions? That's like exactly what happened to me back in 2020 when I was able to talk to Mark Templeton for an interview for our ThriveCast show on Thrive IT. And today, what I'm doing is bringing you that conversation in a more edited format. So you'll see it jumps around a little bit as I've taken out all the ums and you knows and that sort of thing to make the conversation flow a little bit more simply and also selfishly makes a good listen. So without any ado, here is my interview with Mark Templeton, former CEO of Citrix Systems. Let's bring on the man of the hour, Mr. Mark Templeton. Hello, sir.
Hey, everyone. All of these chat messages and the beautiful messages and your kindness. It feels like a Synergy keynote where I come out crying as opposed to dancing and smiling and to the Moody Blues. So it's just great to be here. And someone said it's like a family reunion, and I want you to know that feels that way to me. And I absolutely love it. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, this is probably the first time on our live show that we've had this much cross interaction. So you really do seem to bring out the best in people, I swear.
I have to say that at Citrix, as time went on, I got more and more comfortable in my own skin, which I think is a normal thing as you age and as you make decisions about what matters and what your principles are and what you'll go to the railroad tracks on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So Paisley just became something that was so meaningful to me, and it was a little weird on stage. The marketing people didn't like it because it didn't translate to video well, blah, blah, blah. But I love it, and it's meaningful to me, but it took a while for me to get there.
I just love that Kurt asked how many devices did the vest hold, and the very next person to comment was Brad Peterson's.
Yeah, I'm not letting Brad near this vest.
Outstanding.
This was handmade and designed for me, so I'm not. I mean, I think I think when Brad told the story, he said he went to J.C. Penney or Jacques Penney over the weekend and bought $25 jacket, had all those pockets put in it.
Nordstrom's, he says.
Okay. All right. Nordstrom's. Okay. Wow. He really was going big.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
I think you're right, Mark, about growing into your own skin, your own shoes, and getting comfortable with that. It's an amazing thing. You think back to the first time you did it or the first few times, and you're like, man, I am a completely different person. Just being up on stage from that perspective.
Yeah. When I think back on that sort of journey in that sense, first of all, the audience I was most fearful of was Citrites. Okay. I don't know why, but I just was most fearful of my own team. And there's probably some deep psychological reason for that I can't explain. In the early days, after being appointed CEO, those first iForums and Thynergy, if you remember Thynergy, all right, I was reading off of a teleprompter. And it was because I felt so insecure in front of everyone. I didn't want to let anyone down. And I felt like if I wrote it down ahead of time, I could guarantee to myself that I would fulfill the expectations. And I was terrible on a teleprompter. I mean, it was awful. It took years for me to learn that people want to hear what you have to say from your heart and not all digital.
And I think it's hard to generate excitement when you're reading off the prompter and stuff to because you're focused on that, not on the vibe that you're putting forth. Absolutely.
Yeah. So right, Jeff. I mean, I remember the biggest lesson and the biggest evidence for that was, so in 2001, we made that video, right? The virtual workplace.
Yeah.
It was iconic for the company in so many important ways. So I get on stage. I was sort of semi on the teleprompter. I completely botched the intro. The video played, and we were all, those of us that were involved in it, we were all like, this is the day. It was like Christmas morning. Okay, Santa, Santa's here. So I completely botched the sort of context. And then the video played, and I expected there to be like cheering or some kind of reaction, but it was crickets in the audience. I mean, it was like total crickets. And I was explained to people, it was like, hey, I know these guys are from Florida. They must be smoking some pretty crazy stuff that they're getting from across the water or something. But it was really disappointing. And it was because it was trying to be scripted and wasn't really from the heart, even though there was a intellectual aspect of the creation and an analog creative aspect too.
Yeah. Well, there's something about that organic quality of it just shows the character of a company too. It really, but yeah, it's good to have kind of a pushing forward, but at the same time maintaining who you are. It's very, very, very crucial.
I think the hardest thing that leaders at any level, managers, et cetera, face is authenticity. And that's really all about being yourself and knowing yourself and knowing what you're good at and not so good at, and being willing to admit it and being able to tell your team that. Ask them to fill in around you and push you. And it's a hard thing.
It is.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I mean, I've never been a CEO of any company, but I mean, I got to imagine that is hard to do, to go out there, because you are putting yourself out there. You are the head of the company, and what you say or do, I mean, could potentially affect the company. And I think you see it a lot. And of CEOs or whoever go out there, they do their thing, they come back. It's expected. But the fact that you were coming out, being authentic, and I mean, that's really what people love to see is what? I'm human, as they say. I put pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else. That's why you were so great to watch. It was fun to go to an opening night event and things like that, because you just never quite knew, but it was always fun.
True.
Yeah, I think probably the best compliment I ever got was someone said, Mark, you make me feel like I could be CEO.
Yeah, that's a huge statement. Yeah.
That's just a huge statement, because part of leaving the world better than you found it is touch people and enable them to be the best that they can be, and have ambitions, maybe not ambitious, but have ambitions that are of honorable intent. I've had so many amazing, sweet comments and whatever. I'm getting a little choked up, but that's one that has stayed with me in a powerful way.
Mark, what I want to do is I want to kind of unpack this a little bit. On this show, we try to bring not only what is and what was, but kind of what led up to that, so that people know there's a pathway to that. So what I want to do is go back in time a little bit and talk about your origins and how you went from there to here. So maybe take us back to like where you grew up and that sort of thing, and walk us through how in the world we got to this crazy CEO that cares about people. What? Yeah. Walk us through that process.
Like most life stories, they're really going to root themselves at home when you're a child growing up, and what your family was about, what your parents were about, their values, etc. My family is from rural North Carolina, outside of Charlotte. My dad was in the Navy and met my mom, who is a Brooklyn-raised Italian immigrant girl. And so living in North Carolina was not really an option back in those days for an Italian girl. So I grew up in Huntington, New York. It's a place on Long Island. My dad was an electrician, and my mom was a homemaker. I'm the oldest of four, and mom needed to go out and work part-time to afford a second car, and instead of driving dad to the train station in our 1958 Volkswagen Bug, and which I wish I had today, by the way.
Right.
And so she was the first woman employee of McDonald's on Long Island.
Okay.
And my mom, she's an artist, so very much a trendsetter, and not a follower. And the worst thing you could ever do is go home and say, "Hey, mom, I want to do this because DJ's doing it and he's cool." It's like, no, you march to your own drum. Okay.
I love it.
And my dad, as an electrician, showed me what a true work ethic was about, because it took moonlighting to make ends meet. And so I learned to be an electrician's apprentice on
Okay.
weekends. Honestly, it's kind of where I learned not only work ethic, but what it means to be a great follower. Because my dad would say, "Okay, look, this is how this works. We're going to pull this wire, or we're going to wire up these outlets or switches or whatever the task was. And your job is to think ahead and give me the tool or the material I need next before I ask for it."
Yeah.
And so I'm
That's
watching
great.
Dad, and it took a little time to learn, but okay, next it's a screwdriver, or he needs a Phillips head, he needs a flathead, he needs an outlet, he needs a switch, he needs whatever. And I think that taught me everything about being a good follower of a leader.
Yeah.
And I think being a good follower is a prerequisite to being a good leader.
Ooh.
And the other thing that I learned from my dad, that I think will probably explain a lot, is he's an electrician for a long time, and then a lot of outdoor work, etc. So he took a job as a shipping clerk, and eventually he was promoted to head of the shipping department, and then he went to a different department, and then over holidays and summer, I got to work with him and in his department, and I would watch him give everyone assignments. All right, today, well, this is what we have to do. So, DJ, you need to do this. Jeff, you need to do that. Rachel, you need to do that. Yeah, Tom, you need to do that. And then he would say, and then I'm going to do this. And oftentimes he took the crappiest job. And so the example he set was one of respect, and he had a very diverse workforce. I mean, and my dad was completely color, race, religion blind. All right.
Yeah.
All that mattered to him was, were you on the team?
Or you're a team player. Exactly what I was going to ask. Yeah.
That's it. He just wanted you on the team. And he made it, and he made it feel good because he participated, and he never put himself above everyone else. So a lot of those things really burnished the belief system that I have, that I brought to Citrix, actually.
Yeah. So did you go to school for anything specific, or?
Yeah. So it's funny thing is, I went to, so we lived in a very modest neighborhood in Huntington, but Huntington they're generally known to be a upper middle class kind of place. And so the schools were great. So I went to this school where like 82% of graduates went to college.
Okay.
no one in the Templeton family had ever gone to college.
Ah,
So I had no expectations of going to college. In fact, the first college campus I ever stepped onto was North Carolina State when I showed up as a student. And, yeah, it's true. So but the honest truth is I went to NC State at first to study engineering.
Oh no.
oh no.
Oh no.
Lots of family and still have lots of family there. And, so I wasn't escaping my parents as much as I was going to a place where I felt really comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to NC State, and again, to keep the story short, eventually I moved from engineering to product design, and I studied product design at the School of Design there, which was modeled after something called the Bauhaus, which was really the original school of modern design in Germany, and so which produced an amazing number of architects and designers that impacted the world even till today. Uh, so that's where I went to undergraduate school. And the great thing about that kind of education, sort of the teaching the creative process,
Yeah.
is that what you learn is, well, you learn to dissect things and frame and reframe a problem. And because usually things go kind of how you ask the question matters. It will mean a lot to how you get to a creative answer and solutions and all. And so that education was great because there weren't any answers. There weren't any answers. So you had to stand up and defend your thinking, the questions and your thinking and how you solve the problem. Very Socratic kind of experience.
I'm taking notes like a madman here. Just so you guys know, I'm looking down. I'm actually writing notes like right now.
I think that's a great thing you just said, Mark, which is sometimes it's not asking a lot of questions. It's asking the right questions in the right way. And I think that's something, I mean, I know I try to work on it when I'm doing like even just scoping things or whatever. It's, if you ask something in a slightly different way, you can discover things that were never going to come up or something, the hidden surprises of an infrastructure or something. And that's, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, as I stole this saying from Steve Jobs. I usually gave him credit for it, but not always. Okay. But your point of view is worth 50 IQ points. And point of view is another way of expressing how you ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is like, oh gosh, I had something for this. How your mind is transformed by the process of answering or asking questions. What I was going to. So how you ask first or listen first, like you were saying earlier about a good follower being a good leader. It's kind of the same thing with listening. Is like you need to take that in, so you're asking the right questions, and that forms how you lead. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about leadership, it could be a small team, could be a big team, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Is that people are looking to you, first of all, as a role model. And you need to wake up every day and realize that you're not some anonymous person. And if you just want to sort of get a sense for that, just think of yourself when you were younger and you were around someone who you admired and they walked by or you saw them on stage or wherever they were, okay? And how big a deal that was to you as a younger person. Well, as you get older, you get into that same place. You go from sitting in the classroom as a student through maybe being a teaching assistant to then being the faculty member at the front. Doesn't matter how big or small the class is. You are a role model. And if you don't accept, and you have to remember that and accept that. I think we have big issues, generally speaking, in this world around that today. We won't go there, but that is an important thing for feeling good and assuming leadership and being successful with leadership, on an ongoing basis, and to be confident and proud to lead people. When I graduated from product design, I did well in school. I got a award and all this good stuff. But I thought I was a crappy product designer. I never, I thought to myself, gosh, I'm never going to make a living doing this. And sort of luckily, it was in the midst of a recession, a big recession. It was 1975. I landed my first job, which, by the way, started as part-time, as a draftsman. All right. I mean, maybe a lot of people don't even know what that word means. A draftsman is the equivalent, the physical equivalent of running, let's say, AutoCAD. All right. But all on a drafting table. And I was good at it. I had a lot of training through my education on it. And I was lucky to work for a company in Garner, North Carolina called Hamlin Roofing and Sheet Metal. And Fred Hamlin founded the company. He was a Tennessee volunteer engineer. He had worked on the Manhattan Project.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the core engineers on the Manhattan Project, when the project was sort of kind of moved on, whatever I want to say, disbanded, but moved on, they took the core engineers and they made them split up. They had to go to different parts of the country.
Okay.
Because Fred was actually from Tennessee. And after working for him for a while, and I loved him so much, and he was such a mentor, and he's the only boss I ever had that was shorter than me.
Okay.
But he said, Mark, you have to get out of here. I said, what do you mean? He said, you're not going to reach your potential here, and you need to get out of here. And I think you need to go and get a business education so that you can put your potential to work in the world of business. And it was a blessing, such a blessing. So I kind of got fired. But,
I was going to say, that's like the best way to be fired in the world is to be encouraged to go actually do something that's meaningful in your life. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, look, real feedback, hard feedback, and honest feedback is pure love, because it's so easy to not say anything when you're managing people. It's just so easy to like, let it go, and not say anything. And it's really an act of love when you give feedback. That's why I always say that, and I hope I don't get canceled for saying this, but that actually being CEO is not the hardest job in the world. The hardest job in the world is being a mother. As a CEO, you set goals and you try to inspire and instruct and all the things that you do. And guess what? You make mistakes and you get to fire your mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because usually when you're firing someone, you're about 51% responsible yourself. But mothers don't. Mothers are in a much higher stakes game and raising children. And I think Jackie Kennedy says that you can't ever do anything greater than raising good children.
Right.
So Fred, he really cared. And I'm so blessed to have people like Fred in my life that cared. And he said, get out of here. So I went to the University of Virginia to graduate business school and got my MBA. And in those days, an MBA was a little bit of a scarce commodity, and you could monetize it in a big way. So I had 7 job offers when I graduated, which is when I made my first major career mistake. I took the one that paid the most. I went, and I'm not saying it wasn't interesting and intellectually challenging and all, but I looked around and the culture was just wrong.
Did you have other, I just actually really curious because I think this is a good thing to unpack. Is this something where you had other options that you knew of that you knew were a better fit culturally, or just?
Yeah, cultural, there were people that I liked better,
Mhm.
but the pay was gonna be much different. I went for the pay, and my first job out of graduate school, it paid $17,000,
Mhm.
okay? And I don't mind telling you because everyone will recognize what I did, all right? Most people will, at least. I worked for a commercial division of Rubbermaid, and it's the division that made something called a mobile toter. So if you have a green 55-gallon trash can on wheels in your side yard or whatever that clamps onto the back of a trash truck and gets dumped, okay, that was my product. And
Right.
yep, the culture of the company was very blue suede shoe and shiny suit, and I didn't really respect the people that I was working with. And so in 6 months, which was in those days unheard of, I called the company that had actually, in the end, they had made me the lowest offer, and I didn't choose them because it was the lowest. I chose them because the culture fit was the best,
Yeah.
and that was Boise Cascade. It was the kitchen cabinet division.
Okay.
I think that the lesson we all go through at some point
Yeah,
is
I was gonna say.
you go for the money. You have that feeling, but you do it anyway, and then you find out, yeah, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, actually, this actually is something that hits me literally today, because that's something that's on my mind, and so it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, there's a couple different directions I can go here. Am I more concerned about the money, and or am I just concerned about where I fit in?
Yeah.
And this is a question that we kind of default to, hey, let's just go for the most money, but that doesn't actually end up successful in the long term. I'm not saying that everyone that takes the right job for the right reasons is going to end up, a world changing CEO or anything,
Yeah.
but there's a progression there of doing the right thing for the right reasons that I believe that there's an abundance that
Mhm.
is out there that we can tap into in more ways than just financial, but it tends to just make a kind of a rising column of all these things, and it brings everything up.
Yeah, at the risk of being too, uh, blunt, I mean, if you're there are people who are coin operated, and, like, that doesn't make them bad people. It just means that they're prioritizing the experience lower than the financial reward, perhaps, and for me, I just knew that, yeah, it wasn't right for me, and the worst thing in the world is to wake up every day and dread going to the office and the people that you're gonna be working around. I just think that's like a life sentence. But I do think people can make different choices, and for me, it was tough because to admit that you made a mistake in the first major
Mm.
decision after you went to it's still very prestigious, graduate business school, was kinda like, I don't know, it just really felt bad, but at the same time, you have to decide, am I gonna move forward, admit I made a mistake and move on? And, so I was very, in many ways, so lucky to learn that about myself and about my own experience and what was important to me early in my career, because it's like the money you save when you're like 5 years old and the compounding of that over a lifetime is massive versus the money you save when you're 50 years old.
Even just from a standpoint of investment and returns, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that worked.
But even just health and happiness and
Mhm.
all of that. I mean, I will admit I have a hard head. It took me a few times to learn the lesson. It eventually got through.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons, like I've been doing some interviewing this week, and the question I always hate is, "Hey, what is your expected compensation?" And my response is almost always, "We work for money." I mean, we all do, but that's not the most important thing. And you need to try explaining to them. I want to make between somewhere in here, but yet if the company is right, the culture's right,
Yeah. That's
I'll
flexible, right?
take lower for that.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I've just got to tell you that at Citrix, the way we would think about compensation is honestly, it's an obligation, and we're never going to think of it as the reason to attract and retain people. And that means we're going to pay people competitively. All right. But,
Mhm.
and if you want something that's non-competitive, it's like, you're not for us. You don't belong. Right. And I say we because I think it's more than my own belief, even though I definitely reinforced it, was that people generally want to be part of something bigger than they are in terms of purpose, in terms of goodness. That retains people much
Yeah.
longer and more effectively, and people do their best work, right? And I think we don't need 10,000 Michael Jordans, okay? We need 10,000 believers in the rock band to make the beautiful music.
Exactly. One of the things I wanted to tell you about really quick is, and let me put this on the screen. You can actually grab my new book, personalized by me, on hardcover. This is kind of cool. So we're able to do this worldwide. We can actually have me sign and personalize your copies sent out everywhere. And if it's something where you want to learn more about the methodology or the methods that I've used to be a consultant for all these years and all the things that are valuable to learn about just working in IT, this is my kind of condense it all down, give it to you and let you fly kind of thing. And so the book's called Just Do This. It's available on Amazon, of course, but also directly from us. If you go to thrive-it.com/just do this, we've got a special discount for you. So it's thriveit.com/just do this to get that. And or you and your team or whoever. I want to just take maybe 4 or 5 minutes and just walk through when you came into Citrix and what it was then and how we got to what I kind of refer to as some of the glory years, like the ones where it just exploded. So walk us through a little bit of that, if you would.
I joined the company in June of 1995 as head of marketing. The marketing department was a total of 7 people, including myself. And for my friends out here that are partners, because we always thought of partners as part of the band and embraced and tried to express our culture that way. And this little tiny story is I had a guy on the team who it came to 2 staff meetings, so I was 2 weeks in, was basically denigrating partners, not specifically, but in general. And so I went to Roger Roberts, our CEO, and I said, Roger, this guy's got to go. He's in charge of our partner program and he hates partners. So Roger said, hey, you're the man. Do what you want to do. So he was gone. And I took that on personally for a while until I could find someone to take over. To really be a partner, you have to believe. My employee number was 52. So I was the 52nd hire after they started giving employee IDs.
Gotcha. Okay.
Another couple of weeks, we launched WinFrame. Okay. Obviously a huge deal. And until then, we were only shipping WinView. We put everything together to do the launch, et cetera. And then we had to go get ready to scale and build the channel and put the channel program together, which was a lot of fun, in some ways controversial, because we were the first, I think, to put a pay-to-play program in. And the rationale was pretty simple, and that is we were so small And we didn't have time to waste on partners that didn't have some stake in the game. And we put that in place. And then in December of 95, we went public. We had raised 16 million in funding, which is usually like a Series A today. And it was our Series E. And our trailing 12-month revenue was 15 million. The next big event was the contract and licensing negotiations with Microsoft that were pretty widely known because we were a public company and we lost about 60% of our value overnight because Microsoft said that they may or may not license NT4 to us, and they may or may not be partnering with us. And we had to disclose that to investors, of course. And most people don't know this, but Paul Maritz was the Microsoft executive on point at Microsoft at the time. And he's the one that finally sorted all the issues out. And were it not for Paul Maritz, there would be no Citrix. And obviously, Paul is an amazing man. He went on, obviously, to be CEO of VMware. And I'm not exactly sure what Paul's doing these days, but I know he had a big ranch in South Africa, which is where he's from. And I had several opportunities to meet and spend time with Paul over the years. And they always started with a, Paul, thank you. Because it was his vision and his maturity and all that solved the problem. So then that was around, I think, 97. And then after that, our CEO, Roger, said, hey, look, I want to retire. And then I got a lot of encouragement to put my name in the hat because I really didn't want to be CEO. I didn't see myself that way. And but I got a lot of encouragement, and I was truly the only viable internal candidate. And I think we were all worried that the company was too fragile to bring someone in from the outside because it's risky. Okay. So I put my name in the hat, and the rest there is history. I was appointed president in 98 and CEO in 99. And then Roger handed over the baton and he said, first of all, good luck. Secondly, this is a great business. Don't screw it up. And then third thing he said was, make it your own. So I understood the first two things, but it took me years to understand the third. All right. And Roger, probably singularly the most important mentor in my entire career. Here I was, CEO of a public company, first time CEO, and I didn't know how to manage and work with the board of directors. All of these things were new, and I made a lot of mistakes. And so when we missed the June quarter of 2000, we were one of the significant tech names that blew up first in the dot-com bubble. And so we blew up, and the board basically, in effect, fired me as CEO and made me senior executive officer while we did a public search for a replacement for me. And I had a lot of encouragement and advice to just tell the board how screwed up they were and blah, 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 and move on and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, I love this company and I love this culture. I love what we stand for. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay. And I told the board, I drove us into this ditch, and I'm going to drive us out. And that led to sort of the next big thing, which was, okay, we had, by that time, Metaframe. We were a one-trick pony. Like, what's Act Two? And the truth is, we were faced with either selling the company or coming up with a vision that would really define Act Two. And that's where the virtual workplace video came from. So they say necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, that was created a little bit as a Hail Mary after we had Boston Consulting Group come in and tell us that, okay, there's enough juice left in the market and the company if you flawlessly execute. Yeah. I'm telling you, you can't make this up. Flawlessly execute over the next, I think it was 3 or 4, whatever years, and find additional products to introduce. So we took that to the board and the ideas behind the video, and the board said, okay, get on it. Then the first thing we did was acquire a company called Sequoia Software. You may remember it. And we completely botched the acquisition. So we spent $185 million. We tore it apart and integrated into all parts of Citrix. We were not mature enough to do that. I wasn't mature enough to know we shouldn't do that. And in 6 quarters, we shut it down, which was, as I think of the top 10 hardest things in my career, that'll be one of them, because it was 225 families that we had to say, we no longer have a job and career for you. Right. And it was really painful. It was painful. And so it was one of the few times I jumped up and down on the boardroom table in front of the executive team and just said, look, we can't do this again because this isn't right. This is just wrong. That then put us on a path to the acquisitions we did. The next one we did was Expert City, which was GoToMyPC. It made a lot of sense to people. That became GoToMeeting and a big chunk of the business. So that was an opportunity, and we took it, and it was a really great decision and a great team. And we decided to keep it separate because it was a different business model. Right. And serve a different customer in segment wise. The next thing that happened was we were then looking at the video, but then the translation was from a technical people. We needed to follow apps wherever they were going and follow people wherever they were going. All right. Yeah. And part of following people was sort of device independence, and following apps was app independence. So, that's what led to the acquisition of NetScaler, because NetScaler was an application delivery controller for web apps, not too complicated. And it also had VPN capabilities, and VPNs were also important to us because if we didn't control the VPN, we were allowing something else to get between the head end, metaframe, and the client, and we were a symmetric kind of a system. So the glory days, when we think of the glory days, it was really this string of pearls, and I'm only hitting the big spots here at this point. It was the string of pearls, some of which we tucked in, that made Metaframe stronger and more competitive, helped us move from ICA to HDX, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in those days, we were totally focused on app delivery, very much trying to build out the infrastructure to match the metaphor of DirecTV, because we believed that centralized computing and applications that could be delivered to any screen was just so core to collaboration and to the growth of IT in business. So those were amazing times. And we also, if a lot of people will remember, we were great believers in the licensing model that was basically a usage-based model where anybody could use a license. We didn't, it wasn't licensed on a specific person basis and all. And I think customers just loved it because they could do a lot of things use cases with that kind of a licensing model. And it was a big deal when we changed that and we added the per user and the per device model on top of it. So there were a lot of sort of seminal moments. Steve Greenberg saying 3 cheers for concurrent licensing. Yeah. And we had so many people advising us to give it up. And everyone out there should know this, that whenever these ideas would come up, like raising prices or changing the licensing, and there was a time when we didn't have a license server. So once we put the license server in, you could do follow the sun. And so the license server could serve licenses to Japan while people in England were sleeping. And so everyone said, oh, this is where we have to raise our price and everything. I said, okay, I'm willing to listen, but come in. I'm the customer. Now give me the pitch.
Yeah.
And so the pitch was, in the end, hey, Mr. Customer, let me tell you something I need you to do that's good for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And maybe we've been a bigger company and all of that, but we wouldn't have been prouder. Okay, for sure. And I don't know what would have happened actually, but those principles really guided us. The formula for the company, and the Citrites on the call and partners on the call will remember this, and you remember, DJ, I'm sure, because I had this slide. I made it one time and used it thousands of times. And that is what our formula was: employee value plus customer value.
Yeah.
Right. Employee value was about culture, and customer value was about really delivering something that was useful and valuable to a customer, like duh. And if you do that every single day, because there was a plus sign in the middle, then what you get is a lot of things. You get pride and purpose. That's an upward spiral, and you get amazing shareholder value too. So, but I never had a slide that had an equal sign because it really, it wasn't the outcome. It was the inputs that were important.
Exactly.
The main point of the video was for the technology to be as invisible as possible and as intuitive as possible, so that the focus could be on the work to be done and the outcomes to be generated for these people that were in the video. And I think that's true. I just think that's what people want. And I think, back in the other interesting thing is the video was created in the days before there were digital natives that were like big at home and in the workforce. And I know my own children they were actually not digital natives, but because of my career, they were, because we had stuff all over the house, and they would test things with me. And I'd ask them what they thought. And the pattern I always saw was they didn't really ever care how it worked. Okay. Yeah. They had no interest in how it worked. They wanted to know, Dad, what can it do? Show me what it can do. All right. And I think that's the point of the video. This is what the outcomes are. This is what you can do.
Yeah.
I think for me, that video kind of I've talked about admins mid to late 90s, early 2000s. We did things because it was easier for us. After I looking back, I can see after kind of seeing that video and going through it, it started to become more about the user experience and what they're seeing and getting out of it rather than what I am.
Yeah.
So that was, a huge lesson. It took longer than just watching the video to get it all figured out, but that was a big thing.
Look, I think every company goes through this trying to figure it out, and every individual, especially, and the more tech oriented and the more you love the technology, the harder it is to break free from it and look back through the other end of the telescope at it.
I want to show something that just to kind of capstone this, something that I think is a life lesson, especially for an executive. And this is something we don't always see. especially with companies that have been very successful. And that is things like this. Our friend Rick sent this over last week.
Ah,
So, yeah, I mean, this is just an unusual thing when you really think about it. This is the most critical audience. These are the people that are going to be like, not always the ones that are the glad handers.
yeah, no, I mean, honestly, this is what I was talking about before about love, okay, and caring. All right. It's like these are the people who talk straight to us,
Right.
right? And like as an example, I remember Brian Madden had this post one time where he talked about Citrix being closed because no one blogged and blah, 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 and everybody was CYA or something. I can't remember how he put it, but I read it and it really broke my heart to read this. And I called Brad Peterson, not Brad Peterson on stage, but Brad Peterson, our 7th employee, the holder of most of the core patents on like ICA, for example. All right. And who is an amazing, amazing guy. All right. And I called him. I just trusted him to the bone. And I said, Brad, what do you think? And he looked me in the eye and he said, Mark, he's right.
Mm.
He's right. And I said, okay, how do we fix it? And he said, let's just make some rules and turn everyone loose. And I said, okay. So we made sure the rules fit on one page and we sent them around to everyone without fanfare. If you're not listening, you're not learning. And all of you guys, like all the CTPs and all the meetings, and I got to fly by and feel the love and eventually become an honorary CTP.
Mm.
That group knows that they're very influential and really led us well. That's the way I'll say it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm going to pull up one final picture just because this one means a lot to me personally. So there was a synergy, and I'm trying to remember which one this was. I think it was 2014.
Okay.
Anyway, it was very interesting year for a lot of reasons, but he went up on stage and basically just poured out a vision of we want to leave the world better than we found it.
Yeah.
And I want to get into that in a minute, but I wanted to show everybody. Obviously, you have pictures of Mark hanging out with big important people, but then there's Mark hanging out with this guy, and so we had a little conversation then, and that was along the lines of, I'm glad somebody said this. And I was just blown away that someone had the same vision that I did, but in the technology world. And I didn't think it was even possible. In fact, at the time, I was pretty much ready to leave it all behind. And this was a moment that kind of pulled me back in and said, you know what, it's okay to have a vision of leaving the world better than you found it and being in IT. So, yeah.
Awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
awesome.
And
I
I
remember.
also had the distinction of
that.
saying that I was, able to make Mark Templeton cry, but that's
Yeah. Imagine a world if everyone got up every single day and thought that, whether it's the smallest act of doing something. It's not the scale, it's the quantity and the quality of the intent. Speaking personally now during my time, yeah, because look, if you look on your life and you don't sort of think about things that you either did wrong or things that you wish you would have done better or been ahead on things, you're not being honest with yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself, then you're probably not being honest with a whole lot of people in the world. What I've learned since then is that the most important thing to solve this problem is obviously there's STEM and all the things you can do, to plant seeds, okay, with third parties before people join your organization. But then the most important thing is entry-level jobs, okay? And secondly is promotions and development. And so that's where you have to be really purposeful about diversity and inclusion. If you want to have a sustainable diversity inclusion and a culture that just embraces it, and when it's not something glued on as an initiative.
And it's one of the things where if we try and address past and things like that, that's fine, but it's what we do moving forward. And the point is that these are little steps. If we're going to leave the world better than we found it, if we're always looking for the big thing, the reality is we're not going to get there. If we're always looking for that big thing that's going to change the world, we're
Right.
never going to get there. One mentee at a time. I agree with that we really need to be focused on, sort of like Mark was saying, that even as a leader, sometimes you need to notice things about the people you're leading and say, you know what, you have a better opportunity. I don't want to keep you here. But also as a mentor, sometimes you need to bring people up to that level and kind of leave them better than you found them. Yeah, absolutely. Mark, if you want to say anything.
Well, I was just going to say this notion of changing the world, is as much a mindset that leads you to many, 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 as Jeff was saying, small actions that together. So it's not about one thing. Like when we made that video, we didn't say, wow, this is going to change the world. No, we said, this is going to save our what's if we execute.
I do want to highlight one from Chris Rogers. Thanks for the inspiration. Many folks, both here and not, owe you much gratitude for how their careers went. You once said life was connecting dots. You showed many people the right dots to connect.
Thank you, Chris. All I can say is ditto to that. I mean, you all created an amazing life and life experience for me. And that's why, remember, no rock stars, only rock band. Thank you, Chris, for those beautiful words. And by the way, for all of you that, everyone that interface with customers, if you think about the lives you changed and touched by someone you made successful at what company X, where they had a problem and someone stood up and said, hey, I've got this idea, and DJ or Jeff or Steve or Chris or whatever came in and made it work, and they were heroes, and that made an amazing difference in their career. So I always think of Citrix champions as part of the cult, part of the family, if you will, because they took risks on our behalf, like all of you did. There are thousands and thousands of hands and hearts involved here. That's the beautiful thing. And that's really going back to kind of the beginning, being part of something bigger than any single one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So any final thoughts for us?
Well, I'd say as a final thought that right now, the world looks more ambiguous than I think we've ever seen it. And in so many dimensions. And I just want to encourage everyone to reach into their heart and have hope and faith in the goodness that's intrinsic in people, and that it does take sometimes struggle and misalignment and a lot of things to get through. But having that hope and that faith is more important now than ever in all. And so I just want to leave everyone with the message of hope and faith. And so put your love out there. Keep putting your love out there. That's what we need now more than ever in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mark, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, DJ, thank you. Such a privilege. Thanks.
It was our privilege.
Night, everyone. Thank you.
I'm leaving a little early today.
Okay, Jim.
It's our anniversary. Leaving office, transfer to mobile unit, please. Cancel reminder. I'm way ahead of you.
You
have an urgent email from Tom Weaver in Tokyo, security level 3.
Play.
Vehicle is in motion, playing audio portion only.
Hi, Jim. Sorry I missed you. Our good friend Tamura-san woke me up this morning to tell me it's down to us and someone else. Didn't say who, though we can probably guess. But he wants to speed up delivery, and he wants some sort of answer today. I think we can get this order, but it means fast-tracking some stuff that needs approval at your end.
Set up a VidCon for 20 minutes from now. Alert Tom Weaver in Tokyo, Joe Cooper in Seattle, and Sharon Mason at EKM in Denver. I'll be host from my home. Tell Tom to bring the sales projection data. Ask Joe to have updated inventory figures. Ask Sharon to provide manufacturing capabilities.
Video conference confirmed for 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Sue, you home? Send instant voice message to Sue. Message. Happy anniversary. I'm home. End message. Patch me to the virtual boardroom.
Hi, Jim. What gets you?
Traffic. But I was able to do an audio review in the car. I thought this was a done deal. What happened?
Komodo's looking for faster delivery. They're eager to move ahead, and say the 3 weeks just won't cut it.
Okay. I think we're up to it. We'll soon find out. I've got the data we need, so let's figure it out. I'm going to switch over to the big screen for the con call. So what kind of delivery do we think will cut it?
I'd say a week to 10 days delivery, and the bid is ours.
If we hit that target, can anyone match us?
I doubt it. My guess is whoever convinces Tamura they can get the stuff there in a week will win the bid. I filled Joe in while we were waiting on you.
Okay, open the Komodo pitch document. Joe, what can we do?
Well, the good news is we actually have 10,000 units. Now, the bad news is there's only about 5,000 we can put our hands on, and they're pretty scattered.
And the others?
Committed to other accounts, en route to the warehouses, you know, the usual.
Network error. Switching to backup data center.
Whoa. What was that? Jim, you still on?
Probably a storm somewhere. Stand by.
Backup now active.
We've just been shifted to another server, no problem. Joe, can you show me inventory?
Yeah, let's see here. Just once I pull these systems together, we should have a pretty good idea where we stand. All right, there. All right. Now, there's 3,000 units in the Kuala Lumpur warehouse. Fresno has another 2K or so.
Okay. What's been promised to whom?
Well, all right, now here's an analysis of everything in the pipeline with delivery dates 2 weeks or more, all right? And we could probably squeeze at least another 4,000, maybe 5 out of this without missing other due dates.
What would the impact be on cost of goods?
Well, with a little bit of luck, we should be able to keep it under 50 grand.
Ouch. What about 3 weeks out?
Well, now you're down to 3,000 units or so.
So the total units on hand and units we can borrow from standing orders is?
Well, call it 7,500.
We have nothing on order.
The usual with the EKM, but that's not due for a while.
Okay. Time to bring in Sharon Mason over at EKM. Urgent.
What security level?
Level 2. I'm thinking if we can get a partial shipment from EKM, we might be able to make up the shortfall without inconveniencing anyone.
Welcome, Sharon Mason. Please state your name and company.
Sharon Mason, EKM.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Jim. What's the emergency?
We need about 4,000 more GPS 12 units for a client in Tokyo, and we need them fast. Can you help?
Well, we're at 5,000, waiting on a total of 15 before we ship again.
What if we peel off 3,000 for immediate shipping to Kuala Lumpur?
Jim, we can handle that many here at the Yokohama location.
You heard that, Sharon? Yokohama can do?
The manufacturing piece is doable, but shipping charges would go up a bit.
How much? You can live with that. Sharon, you're a gem. Send them along.
Glad to be of help. I'll get right on it.
Okay, now, this is how I see the total delivery costs coming together. Now, it shrinks the gross margin a fair bit. Can you live with that?
Tom, how price sensitive would you say Tamura is?
Well, I think we can add the extra cost back as an expediting charge. Like this. He'd see that as reasonable.
Perfect. If they balk, use the expediting fee for some wiggle room. Try not to give it all back, though.
Got it.
And let's include the analysis we've just done in the revised bid.
Yeah, show them how many hoops we're jumping through just trying to keep them happy. I mean, that'll help them understand the expediting fees.
Yep. Update the bid and copy me.
Will do.
Gentlemen, thanks for your time. I have an opera to get to. Open instant message. Use voice to text.
Stuck at work, let's meet at opera.
See you there.
How come you never get stuck at the office?
Just lucky, I guess.
Incoming V-mail from Tom Weaver in Tokyo.
It's the middle of the night where you are, but I thought you'd want to see this first thing.
I was most impressed with the speed of your response. We feel confident working with a company of your quality. My secure electronic authorization has already been auto-validated and is in your system. Thank you very much.
Sayonara and arigato gozaimasu. It's been a great day.